Well, hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the beautiful world you are. And as we say in Afrikaans, goeiemorgen, goeiemiddag, goeienaand. Hoe gaan het met jullie allemaal? How are you all? I hope you are wonderful and well. I think we should start doing some Afrikaans slang. I really think we should start teaching our viewers some Africanisms, South Africanisms, like, how's it? How's it is our favorite word. Yeah, how's it, dude? Yeah, that's how we say it. Okay, beautiful to see our awesome guest again. Stephanie, you back? We haven't seen you for a few weeks. So happy to have you back, beautiful. Hello, beautiful Bryce. It's Mystery Monday. Marvelous Monday, magical Monday, where everything wasn't quite as magic today at my house, I have to tell you. We are currently on 10 hours a day of load shedding, okay? 10 hours a day. So we get up to 4-hour cuts at a time now. I had 5 hours cuts on the weekend. In fact, yesterday I had 11 and a half hours. So our load shedding is really off the charts right now. We haven't, I mean, here there's been a water pipe, so we didn't have water for the last 2 days. I was just saying to guys off there, I had a bath last night. I put coconut oil in my hair, so I went to sleep with the coconut oil in my hair because we had a little bit of water last night, so I ran a bath, okay? But I thought it would be back this morning. And coconut oil in my hair, and I do yoga this morning, and then I want to go and have a shower, and no water. So thankfully by lunchtime the water was back, so I'm all fresh and fluffy faced again.
That's the worst. That happens in India a lot too, where all of a sudden water's just gone and you go to ask, you're like, oh, no, madam, no water. I'm like, yeah, I know. When's it coming back? Oh.
Like the head's doing like this. 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Which is 2 days. 2 days.
10 minutes. Everything is 10 minutes. After the third time someone tells you 10 minutes, you know that 10 minutes. Oi, oi, oi. That's no 10 minutes that I know. Okay. Beautiful. So good to have you ladies back. And we are again with the Emerald Tablets today, part 4 of Tablet 3. It's a long one and we're really been enjoying it. So what, I don't know if you guys have actually put out there, but I know, Bryce, we were just talking. If you guys have any questions for Stephanie on the Emerald Tablets, please, only on the Emerald Tablets, she will answer a question. One question, one answer. Okay, just to get clarity on stuff or whatever. So that'll be fun. That'll be fun, right? Doing our little huru guru, yeah, on a magical, mythical Monday. I'm talking a lot. Over to you, Bryce. What do you have to say?
Start, because we know we're in a tablet 3, which is, y'all, we might be like tablet 3 part 70 before this is over, because this tablet, as we said on Wednesday, is called the Keys of Wisdom. But I really think in modern slang, speaking of slang, if Thoth was alive today writing this, it would basically be the tablet of how not to be an asshole. Like, that would be the title of this tablet. It's literally like the tablet of your moral compass, which is why it takes so long to get through, because it's so thick. So we need a lot of help as humanity. But I had a lot of people bring this up to me, and I thought maybe before we even get into the tablet, we can ask Stephanie to ask the cards, to ask the divine. We know that a lot of things have been inverted in our world. Obviously, that's a huge topic on like almost every subject we cover. And many people are under the impression that Thoth and the Emerald Tablets are evil and bad, which my point of view is that all it takes is just reading the Emerald Tablets to see it's not bad. So can we just bring some clarity to that? Can God let us know? Like, I don't know how to ask this.
I can. So let's ask, what side is the Emerald Tablet on the light or the dark side of things? So just plain and simple.
And while she's pulling, guys,
Is it light or dark?
Is it light or dark? And obviously, if you read the tablets, it seems pretty light to me. Like, it's all about being a good person, not gossiping, like how to find your own, to take your own power back. And I want to remind everybody in this as well. Thoth never refers to himself as a god. So just because there are temples to Thoth that people assume he's a satanic god that's not fair. Because how somebody else labels another person or another teacher is not necessarily the truth. And Thoth he just refers to himself as a son of Atlantis, a teacher, here to help us.
Oh, it's of the light. So you have Two of Cups with the Lover's card. So they actually both have a very similar meaning. Obviously, Lover's card means love. All right. So this is something with love. It's also bringing, I have to kind of do opposites here, unity with this Two of Cups. So it's a lot to do with bringing humanity together, and also to collaborate with bringing us into that love frequency, that love vibration. And it's also used as, it's supposed to help teach how to work together. So in other words, what it's showing us is how to, well, in other words, not be an asshole, how humanity really needs to work and collaborate together to bring in that love frequency, to raise the vibration all together, right? Together. Okay, because that's all about unity right here. Mm-hmm. Working together as one. Because we all come from the same source.
Yeah.
Can I just say something there, if you don't mind, as well, especially with that Lover's card there? Because to me, the Lover's card is also the twin flame card, right? I mean, depending on how you're reading. So that to me would be, when we understand these things, we unify. And I think we were talking about it with you the other day, Bryce, on the twin flame. Once you've united with a twin flame within yourself, then you will meet your twin flame, or you might have, meet others who've met their twin flames. You know what I'm saying? So you're then vibrating on that level. And that's what I'm saying. So when we get that, it kind of unites the twin flame within us for humanity as well. We then unite and unify within ourselves, and then we are able to live a unified, beautiful world. And I think that's what this whole when you look at that inversion, you look at what's happening now with these crazy people, these disgusting, these dudes trying to be young girls. It freaks my mind when these adult men are in the tween market selling them tampons. Where on earth have you ever heard such craziness? So like for me, that whole kind of thing is also about the inversion or the duality. But it's really taking it to, and I'm not saying, please guys, I'm not saying that people are doing this are that, please. I just want to state that very clearly. But I think the agenda that's currently being pushed around this whole transgenderism and, that sort of thing, that it's actually meeting the twin flame spiritually. Now we look at the flip side of that. That's meeting and unifying the twin flame, the yin and the yang, the masculine, feminine within you. It's a spiritual experience, not a physical thing. And that's what I feel from that.
It's interesting you said something about the whole twin flame thing, Shanti. On the bottom of the deck was the Four of Wands, which makes the 1111, which is also another twin flame card. Plus you have these two cards, and this one also has a very similar energy to it as well, because that is unifying with a partner or unifying with a soulmate or a twin flame. So you have three cards that really can indicate some sort of twin flame uniting, whether it's yourself and then going into your own twin flame journey or whatnot. So it's interesting how you brought that up. I'm like, oh, it's on the bottom.
And especially because that Four of Wands is also the marriage celebration, right?
Yes,
so when you look at that, it's that celebrate, and as you say, the 1111 is the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 pillars. So it's that the celebration of unity, of the marriage of spirit, the marriage of partners, lovers. So the world becomes more of a unified, happy, joyful, celebratory place in which we can live. That's the way I would interpret that as well. That's just what came through to me.
It's all coming into harmony.
Yeah.
Within ourselves and with each other. May I ask one more question before we either move into the material or ask for the audience? Is there, and I'm not asking for any particular names, but because we know that the emerald tablets are, I know we asked in a previous show, guys, at the beginning of the emerald tablets, it says, and I'll read this. This is the first verse from the emerald tablets on the very first tablet. I thought the Atlantean master of mysteries, keeper of records, mighty king magician, living from generation to generations, being about to pass into the halls of Amente, set down for guidance for those who are to come after. So we already asked the cards before, is this us? Yeah, we got yes, that the tablets are now coming out because he wrote them literally for our timeline, for us living, for you watching right now, for the 4 of us on the screens to now reacquaint ourselves with this information. So with that being said, since it appears that a prophecy is being fulfilled, if we look at it that way, is there now an active campaign in this polarized planet from the darkness to try to discredit Thoth as a teacher, or the emerald tablets, or both?
I think as well, while Steph is shuffling, I think what's also they will definitely, because Thoth is such a powerful entity, call it an energy. I don't like the word entity because that's often misconstrued. Yes. But because Thoth is such a powerful energy, these guys would obviously have turned that upside down as well and inverted it and used Thoth. But obviously, as we currently live in this world, everything is polarized. So they would have polarized that energy and inverted it and used it for dark magic. Yeah. So there's that, absolutely.
So I pulled 6 cards. First card was the Tower card, and it was followed by the King of Cups and the Three of Cups. So the Three of Cups is a very happy card. It could be friendship. It could also be like a celebratory type of card. And then you have a King of Cups. King of Cups is like, I feel like it has a lot to do with distorting, because these two are next to each other, distorting of the divine masculine energy. To, like you were talking about, Shanti, like that there's a lot of inversion. So yeah, there is an agenda to answer the question as a whole according to what these cards are saying, but I'm definitely getting there's like a distortion. I'm using the Tower card as almost like a distortion or a crashing down of this divine masculine energy. And it's actually they've been working on this very slowly, because the Knight of Pentacles is a very slow type of action. So it's been very subtle throughout time, and then we have the 10 of Wands. So what that's doing is it's subtly destroying, suddenly creating burdens, suddenly creating all these things that are really distorting and twisting. There's a lot of twisting I'm getting here. In other words, what Thoth taught, distorting that, switching things up, twisting it, right? That's kind of what I'm getting from it. So that would answer yes, there is an agenda behind it.
Well, it seems like it's gotten people so freaked out that they won't even read the emerald tablets, which is a shame, because once you read the tablets for yourself, there's nothing nefarious. In fact, last week or Wednesday when we read into them more, we talked a lot about how Thoth was telling you over and over and over again that the darkness, the light is far greater than the darkness, and you have to know that in your mind, that you are far greater than any darkness. So he's basically telling you he's telling us how to overcome, how to, as I said last on Wednesday, how to, as Shanti says, how to raise your vibration so high that the darkness can't touch you. And so we're seeing in the Keys of Wisdom as well, basically a how-to guide on how to defeat the darkness. And so it makes sense that they would then try to distort that and get people so afraid of Thoth that people wouldn't even pick the emerald tablets up to read them. And it's amazing that they're called the emerald tablets, because what's the color of Anahata?
That's this.
Yeah, Anahata. chakra. It's an emerald color, a green
Emerald,
color.
and of course rose quartz, my favorite crystal.
And I've done some sessions before in my own, like, where I see kind of my higher self, and there's always this like emerald thing on my breastbone. It's like a part of my body, and that's what really pushed me to read the emerald tablets. I knew for some reason it was connected to the emerald tablets. But yes, you guys think about that. So the emerald tablets, that's the color of Anahata. That's what's coming from that heart, you know? And so
it's so sorry to interrupt you. I just get a little bit to get what Stephanie was saying, what you were seeing earlier on with the lovers, which is the 2, and then the 2 of cups. Again, that's the heart. And it's interesting because the lovers is the major arcana card, and then of course the 2 of cups being the minor.
Yep.
So it really is. It's coming from source power, the way I see it, into, you know, us as human beings, feeding into us as human beings, and the heart energy, the love, you know. So everything is about love, you know. When we really just go back to that place of love, we'll always know what we need to do. That's the whole thing. We will always know what we need to do when we constantly go to that place and check and recheck. Everyone will need to do a different thing or a similar thing, but unique to you. But it's always going to be coming from that place of love when it's coming from the right place, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you guys want to carry on into tablet 3, or do we have any questions from the audience? Yes. What do you guys want to do? And I just saw somebody said their book from Rebecca Messenger was coming in today. So that's exciting. So again, for tablet 3, guys, I am reading from Rebecca Marina Messenger, her translation, and most of it's coming from Doriel. And that is because, once again, she not only channels Thoth, but she also channels Thoth's divine feminine counterpart, which is Shishat. So we have the female perspective as well. When she was living in Atlantis, her name was Elnor. And so that's interesting. And so after tablet 3, we'll return back to Doriel's commentary, but I just thought that was interesting. And I saw somebody in the comment section said they ordered this book, and apparently I've been on back order or something, which is amazing. Maybe we're helping Rebecca Marina Messenger out by promoting her book. So what do you guys want to do? You want to dive into it? Go start with verse 22 again as we wait for questions.
Let's just see if there's any questions. I don't think any questions have popped up yet. No, nothing yet. So let's just go. If any of you guys have any questions about that, you can just pop them in, yeah. And
so Mad Dog, yeah. Some people do say Toth, some people say Thoth, and some people say Thoth. It's not. There's not one set pronunciation of the name Thoth. I say Thoth. Everyone I know says Thoth. Billy Carson says Thoth. And some people will say Toth. I don't think it really matters, though, to be honest with you.
I think Mad Dog comes in with that comment every week with Thomas and Thoth. Well, it is. I mean, you know, it is. It really is just a matter of pronunciation. So I think each one does it individually.
Thoth, I mean, here in America, we say tomatoes. Other countries say tomatoes. Yeah. Which one's correct? And I'll tell you a story. So Mad Dog, maybe this will calm you down a little bit, buddy. So in the Ashtanga practice, I'll tell you a little story. In the Ashtanga practice, we have these things called jump throughs, where you're on downward facing dog and you jump through. Some teachers teach you to jump through with straight legs. Some teachers teach you to jump through with cross legs. And conference once in India, a student asked Sharat, the Param Guru, Sharat, what's correct? Jumping through with cross legs or jumping through with straight legs? And Sharat sat for a moment and he said, my Western students eat with cutlery. My Indian students eat with their hands. My Asian students eat with sticks. Which one is correct? They're all correct.
It really is. And also, you know, we can't say for sure. It's like, how would you like it if your name was not pronounced correctly? You know, we don't know. You know, at the end of the day, it's all about mythology anyway. So we're pronouncing it the way that we would like it. So can we just move on from the Thoth?
Yeah. It's about the message. It's literally about his message, not about the pronunciation of his name. So, and again, and Billy Carson covers this as well in one of his podcasts, that there are many different pronunciations and it just depends on the person. You know, I say aunt for so an aunt, like your mother's sister, I would say aunt, like I'm an aunt. Stephanie says what?
We say aunt or auntie.
It's just different pronunciations of the same thing. And so I think that we need to
y'all and I say you all.
If you go to Jersey, it's use. Hey, use guys, use. So,
you come to South Africa, it's how's it?
So,
okay, moving right along. Let's do the emerald tablet, the number one.
So we're coming into.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I'm interfering. Yeah.
Well, I want to. Okay, so we're going to be starting on verse 22 of the third tablet. Once again, I think there's been some confusion. We're not starting back at the very beginning of the third tablet, or we would literally be on this hamster ride for a very long time. So we're starting at verse 22 of the third tablet. So the original translation says, "Into men's hearts I look for my wisdom, found them not free from the bondage of strife. Free from the toils thy fire, O my brother, lest it be buried in the shadow of night." So Thoth's modern commentary is, "I have looked into the hearts of men and sadly have seen that they still hold on to a mindset of bondage and enslavement." Ding-a-ling, ding, ding. Yeah. People are still enslaved. We're enslaved to the educational world. We're enslaved to the medical world. We're enslaved to the religious world. We're still in bondage. We're not free. So he's saying that I'm looking into the hearts of men and they are not free. They are still enslaved. It is recognition of the power of the fire burning within that will cause a permanent change in belief. This is what the Yoga Sutras say too. This is what Patanjali been saying all these years too. The minute you realize that you are an eternal being, then you will be free of your bondage.
And that's exactly the same as saying, and this is such a profound thing when you let it set in, you are not a human being trying to be spiritual. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. Guys, when you let that set in, it is such a liberating thing, because then you realize this beautiful body is just my fancy dress in this life. And it's so important, because without my body, I cannot express my being. I cannot express my purpose. Okay? So we respect these beautiful bodies. We know they're temporary, which is all the more reason to treat them good, right? Because you're going to get the best experience out of it. But it does not define you. Your experiences in human form are not who you are when it comes to pain, suffering, stuff like that. See it as an experience. Look at it. Let's say you are in experiencing betrayal right now. My gosh, betrayal on whatever level is such a painful thing. What's the opposite of betrayal? Truth.
Yeah.
So all we do is say, okay, turn that betrayal on its head and let's see the truth. And then you meditate on that. If you're being betrayed by your partner, your child, your father, your uncle, your auntie, whatever, all you got to do is say, show me the truth. Show me the truth, because the truth shall set you free. And the truth is, 100% of the time, you are betraying yourself on some level. And when you can get that, those around you stop betraying you. It's that simple. But it's like really understanding we come to earth to experience emotions that we do not experience in the spiritual realm. That's why we have our bodies with all these intense, crazy experiences. And we love it. When we leave our bodies, we are elated. We are so joyful. Even if we failed or we think we failed, we're still so happy. We did it. We did it. We did it. Woo, party time in the spirit world. You know, it's such a beautiful thing to realize, whoa, I'm out of that one for the moment. And then you will understand what it is you learned before you reincarnate again. And it's a beautiful thing to realize you're a spirit. God gives us opportunities to come back and back and back and back again until we figure it out. It's beautiful.
Shanti, you were like, this is just our fancy dress for this lifetime. And I had this thought come over my head. I'm like, well, I think my soul decided to go a little casual on this lifetime.
Mine just decided to come as is. I just come as is.
It's so funny. The way I see it too, when I think about like our avatar for this life, you know, it's almost like you're at a county fair or an amusement park, and there's all these different rides that are going to stimulate different experiences. Like if you're at Disney World, I hate to use Disney World as an example, but everybody knows Disney World. There's the it's a small world ride where you literally sit in a boat and little marionettes sing to you. It's very peaceful. Then you can go on like the Tilt-A-Whirl, where you're upside down, thrown around. And so it's like our souls get to experience different, because in soul form, and the Cassiopeians speak about this, the Law of One speaks about this, when we are in our soul form, we've left our bodies, the view of our lives are very fast. It's like that 5-minute roller coaster ride. From the way our spirit is perceiving what we've just, even though when we're in the body, when you're in that roller coaster and you're scared to death and you're vomiting because you're motion sick, it seems to take forever. But when you're off of it, it's only a 5-minute. So our soul, in my mind, I see our soul seeing all these different opportunities to hop into these different incarnations to experience a different stimulant. Because Shanti's right. When we're in soul form, we don't have the unique opportunity to have a nervous system. We don't have the nervous system. And it's funny, the Law of One will say, and I think I've talked about this before, it's quite comical, because the Law of One will say when we're sitting down and we're creating our soul contract or whatever you want to call it, when we're creating our experience, our Tilt-A-Whirl ride with our guides, like this is what we're going to experience. Sometimes our guides have to Nelly us, like have to pull us back, because we see that the life is being so fast that we just want to knock everything out. Like, let's be mistreated here. Let's be abused there. Let's have a car accident here. Let's just do all this stuff, because the soul is not in the body. And so the soul is like, this will be fine. I'll just knock all this stuff out. We'll get it done. And so then the next life I can go on the ride. It's a small world, and just relax and have marionettes sing to me, and it's totally fine. And our spirit guides have to be like, hold on there. We got to take some of this off the list, because you will not feel, when you're back in a body, you're going to have a nervous system to contend with. And so we need to take, I just find that comical that we're in spirit form. We're all overachievers. We're like, give me the hardest classes.
Absolutely. Yep. Some of us are lazy. Some of us are definitely lazy. They are definitely lazy spirits. You can see them a mile away. They like to just creep along, and they're just like, hey, I'm just chilling. I'm surfing a bit, smoking a J. I'm just chilling.
Speaking of that, I'll someone I know did some microdosing this morning, and it was a little bit too strong than he intended it to be, and was a little bit airy-fairy, loosey-goosey in Mysore class this morning. So I totally can appreciate those moments when you want to be a little
there to see that.
Me too.
I thought it was you, Stephanie. Was that not you, like doing a bit of an OD there in the yoga class?
No, it was Todd.
That's so funny.
Apparently his assistant was like, when he walked in, she was like, what's wrong with you? He was having a super spiritual experience while teaching Mysore. Anyway, so, all right, let's go on. The fire within represents the power of divinity that humanity possesses. So we talked about that last week, that thought is referring to our soul as a fire. Right? That fire, that burning fire inside of us. And that's what he had said earlier in earlier tablets, how once you're on the other side of the veil, when you look back at humanity, you don't see us in like spirits typically don't see us in human bodies. They see us as beacons of light, as little fireflies. Some have bigger fires than others, depending on how much bondage they possess. And so So I think it's kind of interesting that Thoth has now come right back around again to talking about the soul being a burning fire. So the fire within represents the power of divinity. You are a divine being. You are a fractal of God. Again, let's go back to the book of Genesis, verse 1-3. God said, "Let there be light." The original Hebrew text, the word light meant divine spark. So same thing. It's the same fire, divine spark. That's the same thing, which means that you possess the power of divinity, which is again what the dark side, the bad guys, the Lucy's want from you. That's why the Lucy's do the type of rituals that they do with particular living beings of innocence, be it human or animal, because they want to possess and pull in that divine spark. Right?
The juiciness.
Juiciness of that. You have something that they want, and it is this divine spark that you possess. And if you actually go through the missing books of the Bible, the Apocryphon books, it also speaks about this, because it talks about Yeldabaoth, who is the name for Lucifer in that book, that it talks about how he tried to mimic God, which we know that the darkness cannot create it. It can only mimic or steal and invert. So he tried to mimic God and create humans. But the one thing he could not put in a human was the breath of life. And so in the Apocryphon of John, it talks about Yeldabaoth created man and woman, and man and woman just kind of sat there and didn't do anything. And he was like poking them, trying to get them to do something, but they didn't have the spark of life.
Lazy. They were
like, and he was like, "Come on, do something. Worship me. Worship me." They just. And so what did God, in the Apocryphon of John, what God did was God saw what was the good God, the true God, saw what was going on, saw that Yeldabaoth was a creation of God too. So Yeldabaoth himself carried the divine spark as well. And so God was like, "Oh shit, Yeldabaoth has created all these living beings, but they don't have the divine spark." So what God did was he kind of did a checkmate move on Yeldabaoth. He scared Yeldabaoth into blowing Yeldabaoth's divine spark, which came directly from God, into man. And so we got that from God. And so that's why the Lucy's have to do these ceremonies, is to try to take it back. Right? Does that make sense? When you read it, it starts to make sense. And you're like, wow, this makes a lot of sense. I'm going to be talking about this with the 1899 children's strike with the incubator babies. Okay, so if we look at the Apocryphon of John and this divine spark, this fire, they were able, let's just say for shits and giggles, that the theory of Tartaria is correct. I think it is correct. I think most of us on this panel do. And so let's just say that after the mud floods and they crashed down Tartaria, that the controllers went and took DNA from the human bodies of Tartaria and created incubator babies. Well, even that's like Yeldabaoth doing it. They still have, but those babies, us people, can't come alive unless we have the breath of life from God. And so that's the difference. And that's what I'm going to be talking about. The children's strike was that even though they created all these kids to do their bidding, to worship them and serve them, they still revolted, because you can't control the divine spark, regardless of where your body comes from. The body is just a body. It's just an outfit, right? It's just your outfit for this life. That spark within you is what's potent. And that's what comes from, that's what's important. Right? And that's what
I'm interested to know about that divine spark story you're talking about there, and it makes a lot of sense. You know, lately we're seeing a lot of stuff on these incubator babies.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how that works. Stephanie, I would actually maybe like to ask a question around that.
Absolutely.
Around these incubator babies, and what spark do they hold? Do you know what I mean? What sparks them into life?
I think, in my opinion, I think it mirrors the Apocryphon of John, that God still gave them.
That's kind of what I was thinking too. Yeah. But let's see what the cards have to say. How do I want to word this? What spark of life did the incubator babies have? Let's see what happens. Okay. Well, it's definitely not Lucifer's spark, that's for sure. 4 of Wands. Okay. It's something from the past because we have the 6 of Cups here that is also next to that 4 of Wands. So I do feel like it was, okay, work with me on this. Hold on. I feel like so if you were to go back in time and you had a deceased loved one, you know, they passed on, you have a ceremony for the deceased. Now, Bryce, you have talked to us about how they do things in India. They crush the skull for the pineal gland, release the soul. Now, we've been stuck burying a bunch of bodies for the most part. You know, some people get cremated, but I almost feel like they were harnessing something that had passed away, perhaps. It's almost like how they do these rituals to take the light, right? And then I have the 2 of Wands with the 8 of Cups. And so
okay. Am I correct in understanding you? I want to just clarify that, please. What you're saying is that the spark that is entering these incubator babies would be from maybe souls they've stolen, because they kind of, and I know as I never even thought that was even possible in the beginning.
I took that as our Tartarian souls. That after we died, our souls made an agreement to come back into these bodies.
So it's definitely something to do with like the soul. And even the Ace of Wands is almost next to the Temperance card, is almost telling me it has something to do with the soul, and a soul that has passed on, perhaps. And especially with the 6 of Cups. So it's something that was of the past that they brought in, and it has something to do with a soul.
So it's not nefarious. It's not nefarious. But I'm wondering how they make that happen. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm wondering how.
I don't think they do. I think
that happen.
So the way I see it is it's like a karmic contract. So like if we were in Atlantis or Tartaria and we had Atlantis and Tartaria both taken down by the dark, we have a karmic obligation to come back again and experience being in bodies that are not like the Tartarian. Because if we look at the Tartarian and the Atlantean bodies, we know they were giants. We know that they had more DNA strands activated. So we have 12 different I know that they looked humanoid. They looked like we do, but they were bigger, had all 12 DNA strands activated. And then through the incubator babies had 10 strands unactivated, considered to be junk DNA. And I think our souls had to come back for Gog and Magog to come into these bodies that were possibly created by the incubator, by the dark controllers, to fight them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
It does. But I would like to know scientifically, though, how do they do it? I get that it's a contract. All of these things I get. You know, everything is happening fine. But I'm trying to understand how scientifically or even spiritually these guys make that happen. Because those babies have to be... Carry on, sorry.
Sorry. I'm just thinking it's incubator babies. So there must be a sperm cell and an ovary cell that goes into each other. That is the magic. That is God's breath. So that moment when those 2 cells combine, whatever soul has chosen its path will enter through that road. Yes, I do agree with Shanti. Maybe they have a way of like channeling those trapped souls into these kids. They obviously will use dark magic and stuff to channel maybe some of the souls. But again, in God's greater plan, those souls obviously have chosen.
Well, those souls, God is the only one that creates souls, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Lucifer can't create souls.
So that sperm cell and that ovary connects. That is God's creation. So they can't recreate that. So
no, they can only mimic it. Yeah.
The reason I'm getting to the cards is God. So even if the Lucy's made the incubator babies, God still breathed the life of the soul into the bodies regardless. Because what the devil makes her bad, God makes her good.
Sure, I get it. I get that.
Yeah.
I just want to understand how. I understand that spark, etc., but it's still not done from in a natural, loving, authentic way. And that's the thing for me that I'm having a bit of a battle processing. Is that, you know, I've heard horrific stories about how they take these petri babies, you know, they in the Hitler Project, petri dish babies, and they were splicing DNA and everything for years and years, and they've, you know, birthed these children as well. But it's like there's a way they obviously do it, which is interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll have the answer to that until we actually have the answer, because I don't know, because they're not gonna. I think that they've been doing this shit for a long time. I think that they've been, you know, and of course they're not going to tell us how they do it, or, you know, the sorcery they use to do it. And, you know, maybe one day we will get a chance to understand how they've done it. But, you know, until that, but here, you know, and I think it's an honor. I mean, you know, to be back on the earth right now, to try to course correct, to be in the light, to be of God. And that's what I want to remind everybody. There's that Lucifer cannot create a soul. So if there are souls that are trapped and then put into these bodies too, if our souls were souls that were at one point trapped and put into these bodies,
I would definitely say that has to be, because obviously, you know, they're very big on the Nephilim and the Nephilim spirits, and, you know, so I'm pretty damn sure these babies are really born for their purposes, to turn into super soldiers or whatever the hell it is they creating them for, whether it's breeding they might be simply for sacrifice. I don't know. How do we know what they're doing? You know, they're giving us the song and the dance story about what, you know, how good it is for these premature babies to be able to go in these incubators, but, you know, we're talking really the false wombs, that stem from literally them fucking with God's creation. And that's what I'm saying. So I get it. So they're going to put it together, and sometimes it sparks a life, sometimes it doesn't, you know. And I guess that fundamentally at the end of the day is really the divine that decides what it is. But I'm pretty damn sure they would be wanting to use these little babies for their own disgusting, nefarious purposes.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I'm sure they've probably trapped a lot of these spirits and somehow trying to infuse them in there. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I know we're talking stuff that is really there's no concrete proof or anything, not even talk about it. But it just it's interesting how you know, when we're talking about that brings that up.
I want to actually clarify to you guys, because we know that the Bible, I mean, the Bible has been edited. I mean, that's a fact. That's not opinion. Yeah. That's a fact. It's been at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. Constantine hired a group of correctors. That's what they were called, correctors, to come in and correct the 66 books of the Bible. That's in you can look that up. That's a fact. And so the Nephilim, and it's interesting, Billy Carson did have a guest on his channel who used to be a preacher. And he stopped being a preacher because he found all this stuff. So the Nephilim, even in the canonized Bible, the controllers are sneaky. They'll put the truth in there somewhere, but hopefully you won't actually see it or acknowledge it. The Nephilim weren't all evil. They were not all evil. Not all of them were evil. So when you say, oh, the giants were all evil, that's bad. And that's judging. And because any living being with a consciousness has free will and has choice. And so I would hate for us as humanity as a whole to be all classified as Lucy's because 1% of the world was doing that. So let's look at that from the Nephilim perspective. If 1% of the Nephilims were doing these horrific things, what about the other 99% that were good?
Exactly. And I mean, it's so true, because you look at this country, and I mean, it's just our history. I mean, one of the first times, you know, we were obviously, I'm a product of apartheid. I grew up in the height of apartheid. And we had so many sanctions against us. We couldn't travel. People couldn't travel here, all of these things. So it was kind of like somewhere in the late 80s, 90s that we actually were allowed to start traveling. And I went there to Sweden, not to Sweden, sorry, Austria with my fiance. And we sat down at this table with a Swedish couple who then, when he heard I was South African, spat in his food. He got up, he grabbed his girlfriend, he spat in his food, and he just said, I don't know what, I was so mortified. It was just crazy. So that's what I'm saying. Our country is judged as racist, but yet it's a small percentage of people that were in fact racist at the time. You're going to see most South Africans were not racist. Yes, we brought up in a racist culture, for example, but right now I'm sure we're probably the most unracist country that there is. But it's interesting what you're saying. How one Nephilim or one racist will then have that whole label that everything is as it is. Yeah, no, I've definitely learned that. I've definitely experienced that firsthand for sure.
I mean, as Americans, people think Americans are stupid. Well, my friends, I'm not stupid. I know I'm not stupid. I know I'm smart, and I'm an American. Yeah. And, and actually we spoke about this on another channel, or somebody brought this up, like how if America, where I live in America, is actually the real Egypt. It's interesting that the controllers started the smear campaign against Americans if this is actually where the real Egypt is, to get people to not to take things seriously over here. And the Southeast, people, it's interesting. People claim people in the Southeast are racist, but we're not. Mm-hmm. You've been here in the Southeast, Stephanie. Did you see?
We're more so up here in the north than we are down there.
I mean, because of the whole slavery timeline, which we don't even know if that's true or not at this point, because of Tartaria, because of the mud floods. But I do know, if you go look in old court documents in the Southeast, many slave owners who were white men on the plantations were trying to free their slaves through the courts. And the court system would put such a high price on the heads of the slaves that the owners could not pay to have them freed. And they could not just say, so if we believe the story of the Civil War, these white men could not just say, okay, well, I'm going to free you. They couldn't do that. Why? Because the minute the slaves stepped foot off of the property of the plantation, guess what? They were trafficked again. Yeah, because it was the law. And so we have to, it's quite, I hate to use the word bigotry, but it is kind of bigotry to label a whole group of people or a whole group of beings as being one thing because of the behaviors of one being in that group. And so I really want, because these people, and I blame the church for it. The church has painted the Nephilims to be evil, but the church is probably the biggest lying corporation that ever existed. The church, as Shanti says, the church is the infiltrator. Church means mind control. I just would ask that people would come into this new timeline with this information with empathy and compassion, and understand that every living being has its own free will choice. I mean, if it were, and I even say this with the families of the controllers of the Lucy's, if it weren't for people born into these families that decided to speak up and be whistleblowers, we would have no idea this was going on. So people like Jessie Zaboter, people like Svali, I don't know what family she was born into, if they did not have a conscience, were born with that spark of life themselves and said, this is not okay, and I'm going to risk my life by trying to expose this, we would not know. And so we can't judge people by their last names. We cannot do that because we don't know each individual's story. Right. And so we cannot judge that. So, and with the incubator babies, with the fire of consciousness, with all, let's say, how would you feel if you find out when everything flips that your DNA came from the Nephilim? Because that's what I'm thinking, that all of us come from the Nephilim, that our DNA does. We not 25 feet tall.
I certainly am not. 4'11" over here.
I definitely believe I'm probably from the Nephilim way back when. I mean, if I just look at my stature, I'm tall, I'm 1.75. I'm athletic. I'm definitely lived lives as a warrior many times over, female warrior, that's for sure. And we were tall. As women, we were very tall in the old days.
Yeah. I mean, the skeletons that have been found, and I cover this on my channel, the Smithsonian. You guys can look up court cases in the United States. It's the Freedom of Information Act. So every court case has to be available to the public. They can redact names. But if you look at court cases against the Smithsonian, they literally, it's the juiciest shit you'll ever read. Go read their lawsuits. It's so juicy to read their lawsuits. But all these anthropologists were sending in these they were finding skeletal remains all over the world of like a 25-foot person. Right? I mean, when I was a little girl, we had these toys called Polly Pockets, were these tiny little dolls that were in these little houses you could put in your pocket. We are all literally Polly Pockets to these Nephilim. That's how tall they were, right? And so the Smithsonian got sued because many times because these anthropologists they would send their fossils to the Smithsonian thinking they were going to get help with this discovery, and the Smithsonian would incinerate the fossils. And their defense was they had to preserve the narrative. They had to get rid of the evidence. And so with that being said, I would just really hope that when we go forward, that we would not judge people because of their last name, because they might have Nephilim DNA, because of their race, because of what country they're from. That is all perpetrated, in my opinion, by the controllers to keep us divided. You know? So anyway. All right.
Doesn't matter where, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where in the world we come from, how many lives we've lived in what parts of the world, with what freaking DNA. We really are just having a human experience, and we're so caught up in the drama. I mean, I'm pretty sure I've lived many, many lives in many different quarters and got up to many shenanigans in many lives, and it's been lots of fun. And I ain't stopping anytime soon, I'll tell you that much. I love this place. I love coming back here. My point is that, we take ourselves so seriously. And that's what I keep trying to say to people. Yes, life is serious as well. But let's never forget, life is spiritual. Life is spiritual. Everything starts from the spirit and it ends up in the physical and it goes back into the spirit again. Right? So it's a moment in time that we are in the physical. So when we can just apply our spiritual awareness into the physical body, because remember, our spirit goes from 99 dimensions, has to dumb itself down into 3, here into meat suit, which suddenly is very uncomfortable for spirit because we're just so free and limitless, so to speak, right? So we come here having these experiences. Sometimes we feel like we're choking. Other times we feel like it's just the worst experience in this body. But it's just a beautiful experience. If every day, every night before you go to bed and in your prayers you say, God, show me what I needed to learn today. Show me what today taught me about me. And that's what reflection is about. So you can sit, if you had a difficult interaction with someone, sit and reflect on it, write about it. How would you like to do it differently next time? If you have a meeting with your boss tomorrow or your bank manager or sit down and write out the conversation. That's what I'm saying. We can make these things so much easier. And the more we just take the time to get comfortable in what this experience is teaching me, what it's showing me, how do I grow, how do I expand through this, instead of, oh my God, it's so difficult, I'm never going to do it. Instead of going, well, show me how. If it's here, I know it's available to me. I'm just a bit dumb right now. And I have these conversations with God often. I'll say, I'm like a bit of a klutz. I'm like so blind, I can't even see. Hit me 3 times, please, God, against the left side of the head, just so that I know beyond a doubt that this is you. It's very amazing when you can actually have that spiritual relationship with your higher self and bring that into your body. It makes life a lot easier, and your body loves it. Really does.
So can I just address something here by Toby Mac Ballerina?
Yeah.
Speaking about red hair and Rh negative gene from Nephilim, maybe even AIDS and all viruses. darling, there are a lot of people that have red hair that are extremely kind, loving people. And you're looking at 3 people on the screen right now that are RH negative. I didn't pick my blood type. That was just a part of and so I'm just going to ask you to reconsider. If you are a Christian or claim to be a Christian, then your religion is asking you to love people and not judge them by their hair. I mean, that makes me want to cry, Toby. That's not okay to judge someone just on their hair color or their blood type. We know Joshua and Magdalene never judged on that. Joshua and Magdalene
negative too.
They were we know Magdalene was O negative. We know Joshua was AB negative. So Joshua and Magdalene were both recessive negative.
Maybe even AIDS or all the viruses. Okay, I love having these conversations. Let's talk about where AIDS comes from. I'm going to ask Lady Toby McBallerina, if you can leave a comment there for me. Do you know where AIDS comes from? Can you please leave a comment there for me, yes or no? And if yes, please can you clarify on that? Because I would actually, instead of saying my say, I want to ask your opinion before I actually say it.
She's apologizing in the chat. I think she's saying she worded her comment wrong, so she's apologizing.
Okay, that's fine. But what I wanted to say about AIDS, guys, while we are on the topic, because remember, AIDS was invented to take Africa out. Let's never forget that. AIDS was created in the early 60s at UCLA, okay? And it was the infected cells of the bovine and so basically a cow and a sheep that were put together. And they actually did it initially to try and take homosexuals out, right? They were testing it on homosexuals because they were going to see what it would do, because homosexuals, in their opinion, were the main drug users, okay? So what they then realized years later was that 10% of San Francisco had AIDS, all right? And so it wasn't just homosexuals that were drug users. That's what their whole thing was. Their whole aim was to take Africans out with AIDS. They sold, sometime in the 80s, they donated Africa 125 million vaccines, okay? AIDS and smallpox vaccines. What they actually did was they put that virus in the smallpox vaccine. And within the first year, they took out 95 million Africans. The second, and 75 million Africans got ill, very, very ill with AIDS. So what happens then? America and the UK come to Africa and say, okay, well now we have a cure, we have a solution for AIDS, but now you've got to pay us for the cure. That's how America and the UK, aka China as well, got to have, at that stage, I did this research maybe 2 years ago, 27 African countries had to turn over their resources to America and the UK. AIDS, anyone who thinks AIDS comes from the green monkey in Africa, I've still got to see a green monkey, by the way, is a little bit deluded. So to think that these things are coming from a natural cause, and that's why comments like that, they make me speak out, because I think there's a lot of people who are ignorant to that fact. So any of these jibby-jabby, zappy-doodle things is never for our benefit, ever. I see today AstraZeneca has now been given the go-ahead to create, I can't remember the name of the zappy-doodle, that is now supposed to sort out all the heart conditions that the zapper has given us. So they create the problem, and now they tell us they're giving us the solution. And do you for 1 second think there's a solution in that? Don't be ridiculous. Don't be ridiculous.
Read the John D. Rockefeller Masonic Creed. Says it all in there. It says it all in there. We will create the problems, but tell them we have the solution when really we're creating more problems and putting more poison in their bodies, is what he's saying. So, I mean, they tell you, it's flat out there. I mean, it's simple as just Googling the Masonic Creed that he did and just reading through it. It'll make you sick to your stomach.
Yeah. No, it's horrific. That's horrific. It's absolutely horrific.
And I want to also address the Rh negative thing, in my opinion, because 15% of the human population is Rh negative, and that basically means we just don't have the rhesus factor. And yes, there are certain side effects to not having the rhesus factor, but my opinion actually is that the rhesus factor was injected into humanity during the incubator babies to try to convince us of evolution. And so to connect us to a monkey, which we know is bullshit, that humanity and monkeys are not from the same. I mean, they're from the same source. Obviously, monkeys have souls too, but we're different species. And so to think that the Rh negative is predominantly evil or is the seed of the serpent is not accurate at all. You know, and it's also kind of missing the point of what we're saying when it comes to the soul. Just because I'm O negative in this life, Shanti's O negative, doesn't mean we've always been O negative. I could have been B positive the life before this. I don't know if I lived before the fall of if I lived after the fall of Tartaria before this taking this life. Your makeup genetically, like everybody who's still having heart, look down and look at your shirt, the shirt you're wearing today. Is your shirt you? Or is it just an expression of how you're feeling today? So your blood type, your skin color, your hair color, your eye color, your height, your weight, none of that is your soul. That is just it's like if people who have a weight problem in this life, they asked for that in order to learn through it, to work through it. Like for myself, I have the opposite. I tend to get really skinny sometimes because I tend to like not eat sometimes. That's something that I needed to work through in this life, right? And so I'm just going to ask everybody to remember that regardless of whether incubator babies, regardless of whether the Rh factor was injected or not, we know the O negative was the bloodline of Atlantis. We know that Yahshua was AB negative, regardless of whether where the A antigen or the B antigens came from. That's all just a part of a story. As Shanti says, that's just the drama of everything.
Yes, Rebecca, we do believe in reincarnation. We do. Most definitely.
And Yahshua taught reincarnation, guys. We have 66 books of the canonized Bible that are owned, so that the Bible is owned by the Windsor family. There is a copyright on the Bible. The Windsor family owns the Bible. Let me ask you this. Riddle me that, Batman. If the Bible itself, the canonized Bible, is a direct word of God, then why does it have a copyright on it?
Bhagavad Gita doesn't have a copyright. Nope. None of the ancient scriptures have copyrights. It's too old to be copyrighted.
No, and all the missing gospels don't have copyright.
Mason.
Yeah,
and how can I address something too? The canonized Bible, regardless of copyrighted, how old it is, whatnot, talks about reincarnation several times. What do you think born again means? Does that mean you say the sinner's prayer and you're a Christian? Again. No, it means you become born again. What they did is they took that and they twisted it, just like they took the word savior and they twisted it. Because a savior actually means not someone to come save you. It means you've saved yourself, you're enlightened, so you no longer have to incarnate. So they take things and then they twist it and flip-flop the actual meaning of it to brainwash you, to put you in a state of fear, to encapsulate you so that you cannot move on the boundaries of that brainwashing.
And Yahshua taught
reincarnation about this because I come from that world.
If you read the other books of the Bible, which there are way more books that were left out that are in, it all speaks about reincarnation. Yahshua tells you about reincarnation. I also want to point out that the word Messiah means phallical pillar. So when you say someone's a Messiah, you're calling them a male genitalia.
In church means to brainwash.
Mm-hmm. This information is all out there, guys. You have to, the church is part of, I don't know how to say it anymore. The church is part of the satanic agenda. It's the most obvious. But that doesn't.
Catholic Church, again, we talk about the audition room. There it is. Yeah. Boom, eyes of the snake, head of the serpent, right there. And the Catholic Church is the church that has kept all this, the Vatican has kept all of this information away from us for so long. I keep saying that the church hasn't been infiltrated. The church is the infiltrator. The church infiltrates people. It gets them together and deceives them. And of course, not every single church out there is going to be evil. I'm not saying people or pastors are evil. I think a lot of people, all of them anyway, a lot of people have had the wool pulled over their eyes. We also be brainwashed into believing certain things. But of course, they're going to have their cover churches as well, And if they're very good, wonderful, amazing people going there, really.
Well, and you can just
loving the Lord and doing whatever.
Yeah, and I would ask you guys too, like if you're questioning this, a good place to start is, why did they change Joshua's name? The J sound didn't even exist when he was here. Yahshua does not translate to Jesus. Yahshua translates to Joshua, not Jesus. So that's a good place to start. Why did they change his name? Another good place to start is to look up Mithraism. Mithraism is the Jesus story, not the Yahshua story.
I want to read something from John D. Rockefeller's Masonic Creed. It's one sentence. Now, John D. Rockefeller created our Western medicine. He created the petroleum world. Okay. This is what he says. This is one sentence out of many paragraphs. We will keep them separate from unity through dogma and religion. Boom. There you go.
Wow.
And I'm going to say this. I spent most of my life as a Christian. I was in a box of fear, and to the point sometimes where I couldn't function being in that world. Now, leaving that world, I am finding myself, but not only that, I have found God much more strongly than I ever could within the church realm, okay? Mm-hmm. I have a closer relationship with God, and I no longer live in fear, because that's a very low vibration to live in. So you see, it's all there to get people to go against each other. It's a divisive tactic, and it's also to trap you in a vibration of fear so that you stay low, so that you can't find yourself, so that you can't find that connection with you and God.
Yeah,
true.
That's what it's designed for.
True story. And it's not that difficult. That's the thing is, we've been taught it's so difficult to get into the 8 gates of heaven, and we have to do this and that and that and that in order for God to love and accept us. How nonsensical is that? Really,
that sounds like a Luciferian ritual. They have to do all these things in order to get approved by Lucifer, not by God, not by God's source.
Certainly.
And I want to just,
when your soul was created.
Yeah, and I want to clarify too. It's not just the Catholic Church, guys. The Protestant churches take the knee to the Catholic Church. I grew up Presbyterian. We would have to say the creed. I believe in the Holy Roman Catholic Church. And I would ask my mother all the time, why do we say that? My mom would be like, oh, it's just because it was the first church. No, the Protestant churches all take a knee. It's all controlled by the Pope. It is all controlled by the Pope. Once again, too, look up seminary schools.
Someone's asking me what my channel is. Shanti, do you put that in the description box? Sorry, I just saw it in the comments.
I'll put it there now.
Yeah, Morné will do that.
Okay, thank you.
I'll do it.
So, guys, look all this up. That there's, and someone's saying so I just saw someone say you keep saying to look it up. Where? I can't tell. You just
do it.
You just do it. You start digging. We can't hold your hand
watch our videos. The bottom line is, I say to people, especially when it comes to child trafficking and stuff like that, it's like, what do you mean? How do I tell someone in a 1 hour or half an hour conversation what I've understood about that in the past 2 years? So really, we've got videos. That's why we have a channel. There's a lot of shorts. There's a lot of stuff. Please go and check out all our channels. All the information was there as well. Someone was asking us earlier about Tartaria. So I want to just say Bryce and myself have done, I think, 4 or 5 chapters on Tartaria as well as episodes on Tartaria. We went through that whole Iwaranon series. So we just kind of chatted about that. Very, very interesting stuff. So check it out. There's a lot out there. All you got to do is Google it. Just Google the name. Put it on YouTube.
You just go through the...
Google. Not Google, sorry, YouTube. Just go into YouTube. It's got everything.
And you have to take time. The 4 of us on the screen right now, we're just normal people. I don't have a team of researchers. Stephanie doesn't have a team of researchers. We are normal people who just started digging. We are normal people who started to dig, and we found and research. When you research, guys, it's not regurgitating what you're finding either. It's comparing a bunch of different sources and then using critical thinking skills to put the dots together. Okay. The controllers have taught us how to research and regurgitate. That's just mind control. Regurgitation ain't nothing but pretty mind control.
But also too, let's just keep in mind this. Research, absolutely. But also, when you're working on yourself, all the answers are within you too. And your body reacts to truth, and it also reacts to lies. So, watch how your body reacts to certain information, right?
Well said, Stephanie, because your body is a barometer, let's never forget, called your intuition. And your intuition is God's voice. And that is what responds well to something or not. But you've also got to be careful. Maybe it's your fear, which is making you run away. You think that's God telling you to run away. There's a very slight difference between something you really shouldn't be doing and something you should be doing, but you're just too scared to be doing. And that, as you grow in your spirit and in your strength, and as you trust yourself more, it occurs of itself. So the whole thing is just to start trusting yourself more, do your spiritual work, get stronger in your own being, and from there you just smell a situation and go, nah, I ain't going there, bye. Oh boy. And hang on, but of course, red flags. Let's talk Chantelle and red flags, right? Red flags mean nothing to me. When I see them, I think it's a carnival, so I just go running. And have a party, bit of a bloodbath.
You're describing all of my exes right now. I was like, this red flag is just a red rose. He loves me.
Party time. Ooh, we're getting roses and parties and flags. Bit of a bloodbath too, it seems. I'm not talking physically, guys. I'm talking emotionally, okay? That's what I mean. Gotta be so careful.
Carolyn in the chat is right. So when it's God, when it's your higher self, when, your intuition oftentimes doesn't make sense. And Tamara talks about that. And your ego, sometimes your fear, it does make sense, right? So oftentimes if something doesn't make sense and you're getting that like little nudge, like don't do that, but it doesn't make any sense at all, that's usually your intuition. Yeah,
absolutely. Just do it anyway. Just do it. Just do it. Just do it.
One more thing I want to bring up as well. When somebody is really comfortable with what they believe, they don't typically feel the need to criticize others who do not believe what they believe. You only feel the need to criticize others when you're insecure with what you believe. And I know for a fact that Morné, Shanti, Stephanie, and myself, we're not on fundamentalist channels criticizing them. We're not over there challenging them on their channels, but we are constantly having people on our channels attacking us for our research, for actual research. And instead of countering our theories and our critical thinking through our research with other research, they name call. And that is a sign. If you feel the need to do that, then that is a sign that you are insecure with what you believe. I'm secure with God, and I are good. I'm a huge fan of God. We are great. I am constantly talking to God all day. Everybody knows Magdalene's one of my guides. She talks to me all the time. I am constantly in communication with God. And in fact, finding the missing books of the Bible, understanding how shitty the church actually is has nothing but strengthened my relationship with the divine. So much so that I don't feel the need to really go on other channels and attack people who have a different opinion. I'm never on other channels with preachers out there that are preaching propaganda. I never go over there. I just don't even bother with it. I'm too interested in finding more stuff on my own about thought, about all these things that are hidden. This is too exciting to even pay attention to that. What we talk about on our channel is trying, because we know that we're in a community of waking people up, showing people where they've been deceived from our perspectives on our channel. So if you are a Christian and you are coming onto our channels and you are trying to bully us, to abuse us, to threaten us, because our opinions based on our research are different than yours, then that says more about you than it ever will about us. It's showing your own insecurities. And so I would really ask people to think about that. Like, do I really believe what I believe? Because I do believe in Yahshua and Magdalene, and I have I don't call Yahshua Jesus because I know what Jesus means. Stephanie's the one that brought that research up.
That was a lot of research I did. I went 15 different websites and all sorts of different written materials on what that name means.
So have people go look it up. And I will say, I watched a documentary on the Freemasons the other night. Freemasons use the exact same Bible your church uses.
Yeah.
And you know how a lot of churches have Calgary in the background? They have the 3 crosses of Calgary. So do Freemason temples.
Yeah, they do. Taking a lot there. Anyway.
Everyone's echoing.
We've been having fun, and I don't know whose mic is echoing there. Morné, can you check whose mic is echoing there? Is it yours?
I think it's Bryce.
Yeah, I'll move mine over here.
Cool. Okay, guys, we've had tons of fun today again. We kind of walk our little winding and beautiful paths again. So we will see you back next week on Monday with more Emerald Tablet Delights. Wednesday, we are back with Bryce. Do you want to tell us what's happening on Wednesday?
No, I confirmed with Angie. As everybody knows, I keep talking about these damn blue people that we keep seeing in the Egyptian hieroglyphics, and Angie found them, our friend Angie. So she'll be coming on with me on Wednesday to present her research into the blue people.
That's exciting.
I know, it's so exciting.
Blue people. Mm-hmm. So we're talking blue people on Wednesday on Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa. Keep your eye on that, please. It'll be, I think, 6 o'clock again, which is coming up.
11 o'clock for us. It's 11 o'clock for us in the East Coast.
Coming up in 5 minutes for me. That time, whatever time it is for you over the world, coming up in 5 minutes. That's the time on Wednesday. So we look forward to talking then to Angie and to Bryce on Wednesday about the blue people. Did you say of Egypt, right? They're from Egyptian descent?
We are from Egypt. We'll get into it. There's some prophecies too that we didn't know about that Angie found that talk about the return of the blue people. So we know the Hindu deities are blue.
The movie Return of the Blue People. Like,
I love it.
I had to make a Star Wars reference there. Okay, I just did. I couldn't help it.
I kid you not. I saw a guy that once on the internet. I was researching colloidal silver. And the guy, some dude who had too much, or I don't know, he was blue. His whole skin.
There are people that can turn their skin blue, but literally we're going to get into the Smurfs. We're going to get into everything that they've been trying to tell us. And I mean, we got blue people.
Mine growing up anyway, because I'm so small, Smurf.
Well, there are blue people still to this day in Kentucky. There was a blue family in Kentucky, and that's where we're going to start with Angie, is the blue people of Kentucky.
Papa Smith. Oh, yeah. My starting is from Papa Smith. I had them all. And I tell you, if any of my siblings there touched my Smiths, they got whacked into that. I was like so protective of them. I was like, you leave them alone. Anyway, what a beautiful Monday. We could carry on forever. Thank you, Bryce and Stephanie. Thank you so much for really some great feedback there from you and your cards. Morné, as always. And Bryce, we see you Wednesday.
Absolutely. Bye, guys.
Take care, you guys.
Bye.
Like, share, subscribe, please. Thank you so much. Love you. Mwah. Bye.
Bye.